Hello, my name is Elaine Tintoni, and I'm the lead online math instructor at Itawamba Community College. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Show Work window that you'll find in MyLabs Plus. Every quiz and every test that you'll take in MyLabs Plus will have a few problems that we call Show Work problems. These are problems where you are required to show the steps that you use to solve the problem in order to receive credit. When you're inside a quiz, if you click this drop-down list here, you'll get an overview of the quiz. So this lets you see how many questions are on the quiz, and also you can see which questions are show work questions because those will be notated with an SW. So this quiz contains 4 show work questions. Every show work question will have a show work button in the upper right corner. You won't see this button on questions that are not show work questions. So when you click this Show Work button, you get the Show Work window, and this window has a toolbar that contains several buttons, and in this video I just want to show you how to use the buttons to quickly type out your work. By far the most important button on this toolbar is the button that has the pi symbol on it. This is the button that will give you what we call the Math Expression tool. The button that has an A on it is the text tool. Anytime you want to type a math expression, you need to use the Math Expression tool. And anytime you want to type words, you need to use the text tool. So these are the 2 buttons that will let you do all the typing you're going to do. From time to time, you might want to draw a line or an arrow or a circle around a number. And whenever you want to draw something, you will use this drawing tool. If your drawing needs to be edited, you have an eraser tool here. And both of these tools allow you to choose the thickness of the marker or the eraser that you're going to use. This button is a color selector. If you click the color selector, you get a choice of several colors. Any typing that you do with the text tool and any drawings that you make with the drawing tool will be affected by the color that you've selected here. The Math Expression tool always types in black. Since the Math Expression tool is the most important thing that we'll be using, I'm going to show you how to type a few things using the Math Expression tool. First, let's talk about fractions because they are so common and you'll see these in every math class. So I'm going to show you how to type an expression like 5/3 plus 1/4. The first thing you'll need to do is click on the Math Expression tool. So you would click this pi button here, and then you would click in the window wherever you want your expression to start. Now wherever you click, that's where you're going to get this box. And this is what you'll type in to create something like this. Now creating a fraction is really easy. All you have to do is use the slash key that's on your keyboard, the one I have highlighted here. And by the way, you won't have a keyboard on your screen. I just have the on-screen keyboard visible here so that you'll know what keys to press on your own physical keyboard that you have with your computer. So to make a fraction, you can press the slash key, and you can either type numerator slash denominator, or you can type the slash first and get a fraction template. So let's do it both ways. First, I'm going to type 5/3, and let's see what that looks like. 5/3. And you see how when I typed that, it formatted it as a fraction for me. Now, if I were to type the plus key right now, so I'll need the shift key for that. So shift plus. You can see that if I do the plus, it puts it in the denominator of my fraction, which is not what we want at all. We want the plus between the 2 fractions. Anytime you've used a template to type a math expression, you'll find that your cursor stays in that template until you move it out. I hope you can see here that the cursor is blinking in the denominator of the fraction, and the denominator is blue. So that tells me that anything else I type is going to go in the denominator. To get the cursor out of the denominator, all you have to do is press the right arrow key. So I'm going to press the right arrow key here, and you can see now how the cursor is moved out of the template. And now if I type a plus, the plus appears where I want it, and now I can type my second fraction, which is 1/4. So 1/4. 4. And that's how you type a fraction in MyLabs Plus. That's the easiest way. Now let's look at how to type an expression like x plus 3 over x minus 7. This is where you'll want to type the slash first, because let me show you what happens if you just try to type it the way we read it. So I'm going to click the Math Expression tool and then click in my window, and here is my box. If I type x plus 3 over x minus 7, you can see that that didn't really type it the way I wanted it. It didn't understand that the x plus was supposed to go in the numerator of that fraction. So I'm going to just delete everything here. Whenever you have more than one term in the top of a fraction, what you're going to want to do is type the slash first. So let me just hit the slash key, and you can see that that gives me a blank fraction template to type in. And now it's easy to type x plus 3 in the top, use the down arrow key to move to the denominator, and type x minus 7 in the denominator. Now let me show you how to type an expression like this one that contains exponents. Again, to get the exponents to show up, we'll need to use the Math Expression tool. So you would click the Math Expression button and then click in the window wherever you want the expression to appear. Now, all we need to do is type 5x as we normally would. So I'm going to hit 5x. And now I need to tell MyLabs Plus that the 3 belongs in an exponent. So to make an exponent, the easiest thing to do is hold down the Shift key, and while you're holding down the Shift key, press the up arrow button that you see highlighted here. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, press the up arrow button, and look what happens to my cursor. You can see that it's slightly elevated. So now I can type the exponent that I want, which is 3. And now you can see that the blue exponent box is still highlighted. So if I continue typing, I'm going to continue to get characters in that exponent, but we need our cursor to get out of the exponent. So all you need to do is hit the right arrow key one time. That moves your cursor back down into the regular expression, and now you can type plus 8x. And now to get the 2 exponent, remember again, it's hold down the Shift key and press the up arrow. So I'm going to hold down the Shift, press the up arrow, I get the exponent box, and now I can type my exponent of 2. Now I want to show you how to type a radical expression like the one you see here. Here I have square root of 5x plus 3 equals 7. So to type a radical, you have a choice. You can use a keyboard shortcut code to get the radical, or you can use the math symbol palette, and we haven't really talked about this yet, because I try to avoid it if at all possible, because it's usually faster to type with the keyboard shortcuts. But let's take a look here. So if I click on the symbol button, it expands this palette of symbols for me. The radical template is right here. You can see that I have a radical and then a cursor box under that. So I'm going to just click that button and then close the symbol box. And now I see that the blue box under the radical is highlighted, and I can just type 5x plus 3 under there. And notice that if I keep typing, everything I put after that is going to go under the radical. You see how the radical extends? So when you are finished typing all the characters you want under the radical, you need to hit the right arrow key to move the cursor outside of that radical, and now you can see that any further typing is not going to go under the radical because it's no longer highlighted. So now I can type equals 7, and the radical stops, and the equals 7 is outside the radical just like we wanted. Now if you're in a section of the course where you're using radicals all the time and you really would prefer not to have to open this math symbol palette every time, there is a shortcut that you can use, and I'm going to show you how you can find the keyboard shortcut for any symbol that you find that you have to use over and over. Let me just click the More button here, and we'll get a whole bunch of math symbols. And honestly, most of your courses won't use all of these symbols, But usually there are a few symbols that we use over and over. For example, the greater than or equal to symbol we use a lot, the less than or equal to. How about the multiplication dot or the division symbol? So you'll find that some of these, it's going to be more convenient for you just to be able to type them on the keyboard instead of having to hunt through the palette for them. And each of these symbols does have a keyboard shortcut. So in this case, where we want to have a keyboard shortcut for a radical symbol, all we have to do is find the radical symbol in the palette and then put your mouse over it, and you'll see that you get this tooltip. And at the end of the tooltip, they will always tell you what the keyboard shortcut is. So I see that this one is \SQRT for square root. Now you'll see that the backslash is up high on your keyboard. It's usually right under the backspace key. So here is my backslash. And now if I want to come back over here and type this expression one more time using the keyboard shortcut, I'm going to close the symbol palette and I'm going to type \SQRT, and you can see that as soon as I hit the T, it forms a radical for me. And then I can type 5x plus 3, hit the right arrow key to move that cursor out of the radical, and then type equals 7. Now there are a couple more symbols that we use a lot that are really easy to use the keyboard shortcuts for, so I thought I'd go ahead and show you those. The multiplication dot we use a lot. You never want to use an X instead of a multiplication dot because you know in algebra and in all higher math courses, the cross symbol that we use for multiplication looks just too much like the variable x. So we just stay completely away from that cross symbol and we use the multiplication dot instead. Now it's very easy to get a multiplication dot. All you have to do is type an asterisk. So that's Shift 8 on your keyboard. And for the greater than or equal to symbol, all you have to do is type a greater than symbol followed by an equal mark. So a greater than and then an equal mark. So let's try typing this one. So you would click the math expression tool, then click in the window, and I'm going to type 3 multiplication dot 5. So to get the multiplication dot, remember I have to hold down the Shift key while I hit the 8. So that's the asterisk, and instead of forming an asterisk on the screen, it formats it as a multiplication dot. And then I can type 5 and then plus 2 times 4. So that's going to be 2 asterisk 4, and it gives me 2 times 4 with the multiplication dot. Now greater than or equal to, I can just type a greater than and an equal sign, and then I can type the 1 that goes on the right side of that greater than or equal to. This would be fine. I usually find that this looks a little cluttered for me when I'm typing. It makes it hard to read. So I actually like to go back and put a space before the inequality symbol and a space after the inequality symbol, and to me that just makes it a little easier to read. Now you will use the math expression tool for all of your work unless you specifically need to type words. If you need to type words, then the math expression tool is not very good at that, and you would want to use this text tool instead. Let me show you what happens if you try to type text using the math expression tool. So I'm going to type a sentence. Notice that it tries to format things that it thinks it recognizes as mathematical symbols. The I is the square root of -1, that's the imaginary number, so it formats that in script. E is also a mathematical constant, that's Euler's number, and so it formats that in script. It thinks it recognizes the sine function here, and it also thinks it recognizes the exponential function here. So you can see that this is not a nice way to type text. Anytime you want to type words, you'll need to use this text tool, not the math expression tool. So now I'm going to type almost the same sentence but using the text tool instead. So to use the text tool, you'll just click the A button, then click in your window wherever you want the text to appear. Notice that when I clicked, I got a cursor, but I also got this formatting toolbar. Now you can largely disregard this. There's no need for you to spend any time or energy trying to format your text a certain way. It's actually very rare that you'll need to type text, but occasionally you will. And whenever you do need to type text, I do not want you to use the math expression tool. So if I type this same sentence using the text tool, this is what happens. Okay, so a couple of things happened. One, it didn't try to do any mathematical formatting at all because it knows that I'm not trying to type math. Two, it automatically word wrapped for me. So the text box that you get is only so wide and then it starts wrapping. However, you can control that, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Now let me talk to you a little bit about editing. Here I have a text sentence with a typo in it, and here I have a mathematical expression with a mistake. 4 squared plus 3 squared should be just 25, not 125. So anytime you want to edit either a text item or a mathematical expression, what you need to do is go click on the tool that created the expression and then click on the expression you want to edit. So let's say we want to edit this sentence and we want to take that typo out. So what I can do is click on the text tool, and then if I put my mouse over the sentence, you can see that the text box kind of lights up. You can see the boundaries of the text box. If you click once, the entire thing gets selected. If you click again, you get a cursor that you can move around. So now I'm just going to move my cursor and delete the typo, and now I want it to say without a typo. And so that's good. And you can edit text that way just by clicking on the text tool and then clicking a couple of times on the text you want to edit. Now let's do the same thing for this math expression. You can't see my mouse pointer, but if you could see it, when you try it on your own, you'll see that putting your mouse pointer over the math expression doesn't do anything unless you have first clicked the math expression tool. So if I click the math expression tool and then put my mouse over the math expression, it lights up. Again, you can see that border. If I click inside the math expression, it turns yellow and it's editable now, and all I have to do is move my cursor and backspace over the character that I want to delete. So text and math expressions can both be edited, but you have to select the proper tool first and then click on the thing you want to edit. Now what about moving things around? Sometimes you might have several steps and you might run out of space, and you might wish that you could move expressions around to use the space better, and you can. All you have to do to move an expression is use this selection tool right here. So let's say I want to move this sentence to the top of the window. So first I need to click on the selection tool, and then I need to click on the thing that I want to move and just drag it. Just click and drag and it will do. And let's do the same thing with this math expression. So first make sure that the selection tool is activated, and then just click and drag on the math expression that you want to move. Now let's talk about resizing a text box. It wouldn't make sense to resize a mathematical expression because that just needs to take up whatever space it takes up. But sometimes you might need a text box to be narrower or shorter than it is. And so in that case, all you have to do is first click on the selection tool, then click on the text box. Notice you have a little resizing tool here. If you click and drag that, you can make the box wider, which will of course make it shorter, or you can make the box narrower, which will of course make it have to take up more space vertically. But you are in control of that, and you can resize a text box to fit just about any space that you want. Now before I show you the rest of these buttons, let me just show you the drawing tool real fast. You won't use the drawing tool a lot because remember the show work policy requires you to type your work, so you won't be writing with this. Even if you have a stylus and a tablet, do not write out your work using this drawing tool. However, you can use the drawing tool if you like. If you just click on it and then click in the window, you can draw with it. If you want to draw a line to separate some things, if you want to circle your final answer, anything like that. If you want to draw an arrow to point to something, you are welcome to do things like that. But we do not want you to try to write numbers or words with this drawing tool because it's just too awkward for that. And your work must be typed to receive a grade. By the way, these drawing items can be moved with the selection tool as well. So we can do that. Of course, my arrow was in 2 pieces, so I had to move each piece separately. You also can edit your drawings with the eraser tool. So let's say, I'm not happy with the end of my arrow here. I could just erase that part and try again. And so that's how to use the drawing tool and the erasing tool. Now let's look at the buttons over here on the end. We have this button that will allow you to insert images. There's really not a time when you ever will need to use this button, so we're going to move on to the background. You do have a few background options. The default option is blank, which is totally fine. You never need to use anything else. But if you would like a ruled background, that is an option. And there's a graph paper option as well, but I find it really hard to read anything that's typed on the graphing paper background, so I never use that. And it's probably best if you just leave it as a blank background. If you would like to change the background color to something else, you are welcome to do that. It's not necessary, and it probably makes it hard to see if you choose one of these really bright backgrounds. Like this would be awful to grade. But if you want it to be something softer like a yellow or a blue, you can do that. But I wouldn't spend a lot of time on this. Then you have these 2 buttons, which are bring to front and send to back. These only would matter if you had items that were overlapping each other, and even then, these are not a big deal. You can disregard these buttons. Out here on the end, you have an undo and a redo. So let's say that I accidentally delete everything on my window, and I really wish I hadn't done that because it took me lots of time to type out all that work. You can just undo to bring everything back. If you undo something and you wish you hadn't undone it, you can redo it. So either way, undo, redo, and then this button out here on the end is the trash can. So this will either delete everything on your screen. If no items are selected and you click this delete button, it will offer to delete everything on your screen. If there's just one thing you want to delete, like let's say we want to delete this math expression back here, then I can just select that one math expression and make sure that I have my expression selected, and then I can click the trash can and it's just going to delete this one expression. So that's how that works. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown of the tools that are available to you in the show work window. I hope that was helpful to you. The more you practice with the show work window, the easier you'll see that it gets, especially if you take advantage of the keyboard shortcuts. And we want you to be very, very comfortable with these tools because you will have to use them on your tests, and we don't want you having to try to figure out how to use the show work window on a test when it's already a high pressure situation. So practice, ask questions if you need to. Your instructor will be glad to help you, and good luck.